3。
Hi, I'm Leo, and this is our economics final video presentation. This is me, this is Rick, and that is Kevin. And I'm going to explain question 1. The first part of question 1 is about what is tariff and what is reciprocal tariff. A tariff is a tax imposed on imported goods and services, typically used to protect domestic industries from foreign competition or to raise government revenue. And a reciprocal tariff is a retaliatory tariff set by one country in response to tariffs imposed by another. It matches or mirrors the trade barriers of the other country, aiming to balance trade treatment. And the second part of the question is about reciprocal tariff affect Taiwan's export to U.S. Taiwan's exports to the U.S. If they imposes tariffs on Taiwanese goods, demand for Taiwan's exports in the U.S. decreases due to higher prices, reducing Taiwanese exports. And Taiwan's import from the U.S. in retaliation, Taiwan imposes a reciprocal tariff to the U.S., making the U.S. good more expensive in Taiwan, the market in Taiwan. This reduces Taiwan's imports from the U.S. And the third part of the question is about what is nominal exchange rate. The rate at which one currency can be exchanged for another. It tells you how much your currency you need to exchange for another country's currency, and is usually counted in the US dollar. And in this chart, we can see that both the supply and demand decreases due to the tariff, and because usually the supply will decrease more than the demand, so the nominal exchange rate will increase. And this means that you need more new Taiwanese dollar to exchange for one US dollar. The fourth part is about will new Taiwanese dollar appreciate or depreciate. So as the previous chart, we can see that nominal exchange rate increases, so we need more Taiwanese dollar to exchange for one US dollar. And this means that new Taiwanese dollar will depreciate because of the increase of nominal exchange rate. And the fifth part of the question is about the effect of the US next exports. So the exports from the US to Taiwan will decrease because exports falls more than the imports. The US net exports will be worsened. And imports from Taiwan will also decrease due to the chart in part 3. And if imports fall more than exports, then the US next export will improve. And in the market, usually the exports will fall more than imports because the reciprocal tariff will reduce exports more than imports, and it will worsen the US next export. So the sixth part of the question is about what is real exchange rate. It is the rate at which goods and services of one country can be exchanged for the goods and services of another country. So in this graph, we can see that the demand decreases, so the real exchange rate will also decrease. And after the tariff, Taiwan buys fewer US goods, making the demand curve shift left, and that means demand decrease, leading to the decrease of real exchange rate. And the seventh part, according to former analysis, both US exports and imports fall after the tariff. and exports fall more than imports, which will worsen the U.S. net exports. In this case, the reciprocal tariff is unlikely to improve the U.S. net export as Trump expected. So it would even reduce overall trade and disrupt supply chain and increase the cost for customer and firms. That is the explanation of question 1. Let's welcome the next one, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm going to introduce the question 2. So the first part, the increase in Taiwan semiconductor export, this will increase the next export in Taiwan's GDP, so which made the AD, aggregate demand, shift right and increase the both price level and the real GDP. And the second part is the construction of overseas headquarters and R&D centers. So this investment is considered as the FDI, which is foreign direct investment. Why is that? Because the capital and the operation is run by the foreign company. And this will lead to the increase in investment, which increase the Taiwan's GDP. So the aggregate demand will shift right again, and the price and the output will also increases. And next is the third part, purchase of TSMC share by foreign investor. This investment we consider as FPI, which is foreign portfolio investment. Why is that? Because the partial capital is from foreign investor, but TSMC is still run by domestic company. And this won't really affect the price level and the real GDP because FPI actually considered as saving, not investment. So in GDP, investment refers to real investment, like physical investment, like machine or land. And it's not like finance investment, like buying stocks, something like that. And although we say that there's no real effect on the price level and the real GDP, but we can still look at the detail and find some indirect effect. For example, if we look at the right side, here's the consumption. When foreign investor buy stock, buy TSMC stocks, the stock index will increase due to a wealthy effect. People get richer, so the consumption might increase, thus the AD, aggregate demand, will shift right. And the next export and investment, I will use the diagram to explain this. So here's the diagram. The first one is the consumption that we just talked about. And the second one and the middle one is the next export and the investment. So when lots of capital come into Taiwan, which is a lot of foreign investment buying stocks, by TSMC stocks, the net capital outflow will decreases, and this will reduce the exchange rate market, the supply of the NT dollar, so which is the real exchange rate will goes up, and when the real exchange rate goes up, the GDP's next export will decreases, and the decreases in net capital outflow will also decrease the demand of notable fund in the notable fund market, and this will cause the interest rate goes down. When interest rate goes down, the investment will increase. So there's a lot of components. Something are increasing, something is decreasing. So I would say in the final, there's no effect or small movement because these components will offset by each other. And the fourth part, if the Taiwanese government takes no action in response to the AI drive economic growth in the long run, so in the long run, we know there's economic growth, so the aggregate demand will shift right, and the price and the real GDP will also increase. However, if the price level increases, the production costs in the long run, like salaries or raw material, the price is getting higher. So the cost is also getting higher, the production cost. So the short run aggregate supply will also decreases. So in this diagram, we can see that the price is getting higher and the real GDP will back to the long run aggregate supply level, which is the yellow line here. And so in the further long run, so we can see the long run aggregate supply might shift right if the labor productivity or capital expand. So this is will be the further phenomenon that we can explain. Yes. So the last part is the two policy that we facing this overheated economic growth. So the first one is fiscal policy. So in fiscal policy, government can increase the tax. So in the initial situation, there's an economic growth, like the first picture here. So aggregate demand shift right, and price and real GDP will also increases. And when government increase the tax, it might lead to lower consumption because the disposable income will also decreases. And it will also lower the investment because the profit of the company will also decreases. So the AD, aggregate demand, will shift left and decrease the price level and the real GDP to prevent the overheated situation. Also, so this one is the monetary policy. So central bank can increase the discount rate. So the money supply will decrease like this. This is the money supply market. The money supply will decreases, and thus the interest rate will goes up. So when the interest rate goes up, this will decrease in the wealthy to low found, and this will cause the lower investment, which will decrease the aggregate demand (AD). And aggregate demand shift left, this will decrease the price level and the real GDP. So this will also prevent the overheated economy.
Yay! Hi, my name is Rick, and I'm going to talk about question 3. And the first part is the budget cut can directly decrease the AD curve, which reduce both price level and real GDP. And next one. And the second part, yes, I expect a multiplier effect to result from the decrease in spending. We can see the definition of the multiplier effect. It arises because an increase in autonomous expenditure increase aggregate expenditure and real GDP, leading to an increase in induced expenditure. Therefore, this will lead to a further increase in aggregate expenditure and real GDP, and talk about how it could amplify the impact. An initial decrease in government spending could result the reduction in income and leading to a further decrease in consumption spending. Therefore, it will amplify the negative impact. And the third part, those budget cuts could directly increase the supply of vulnerable funds, and because it increased the public saving, the increase in supply of vulnerable funds will let the real interest rate to decrease, and private investment will therefore to rise because the lower interest rate make borrowing cheaper for private investors. But private saving will decline because lower interest rate could reduce the incentive to save. Result is that national saving will rise because it's equals to public saving plus private saving. The fourth part, we could talk about the net capital outflow. As real interest rate fall, Taiwanese investors will seek higher returns abroad, increasing net capital outflow. Next one. And as net capital outflow increase, Taiwanese investors will convert more new Taiwan dollars to currency exchange market, leading to a increased supply of new Taiwan dollars. And the result will be that real exchange rate will fall, or we can say new Taiwan dollars to depreciate. Therefore, export will rise, import fall, and next export will increase. Next one. The final part was we can, based on the previous analysis of question 3 and 5, we can divide it into direct impact and indirect impact. The reduction in government spending will decrease AD curve, and also the multiplier effect further amplify the decline in aggregate demand. And secondly, the indirect impact is that increase in supply of loanable funds will let real interest rate be lower, and then more private investment. It will indirectly increase AD. And decrease in real exchange rate will also make new Taiwan dollars to depreciate, and they're leading to increase in net export and AD. The conclusion is that although investment and net export will partially offset the decline in AD, the overall impact is likely a decrease in AD, especially if investment and net export are not highly sensitive to interest rate and exchange rate changes. Thank you. That's our final presentation.